So we got a brand new theory on what the power could be for the brand new chapter coming in March 2022. Kings and queens, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. And as we know, the trailer has been revealed for the new killer that is going to be coming out in March of 2022. The Ring is going to be joining the Dead by Daylight's Hall of Fame roster, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I've brushed up on some of my knowledge, took a look at all of the movies, and I'm pretty confident that we can nail this on the head about everything that this chapter has to offer, especially with the power. So this is all going to be speculation and theory, and I hope you guys do enjoy. If you do, of course, leave a like down below and subscribe for some more Dead by Daylight content. Alrighty, but we want to talk about this new chapter and what potentially could be the new power for the killer. So let's jump on into it. Now, there is quite a lot to digest. First of all, we know that Dead by Daylight are going to be working with the novel with inspiration from the film. It's not going to be a one-on-one direct version of the film, but more so of the novel. Now, in the novel, there are a lot of subtle differences that do play a big factor of what's being changed. For example, the main character isn't the main character that we know in the film, and the ending is a little bit different. Spoilers ahead if you haven't seen it, but in the novel, the main character's wife and daughter died towards the end because they couldn't stop the 7-day curse. In the film, it is completely different, with the genders all being swapped, where there's actually a lady with her son, and they do end up surviving. Another subtle difference that we need to get out the way is that the actual thing that's killing everybody in the novel itself is actually a virus and not necessarily a paranormal curse that affects you after 7 days. In the novel, this actually transports not through only the tapes that is watched, but this transforms into letters, copies, documentations, a bunch of different things that then inflicts you with a virus, and eventually this actually becomes a cancerous virus. Now, this is where I think Dead by Daylight are going to take a little bit more adaptation to the film just for the convenience sake, and because I think it plays off a little bit better than having another virus such as the T virus, having another one coming into the game. It just makes more sense to have the tape being the big key and the big element. Another distinction is that in the movie itself, Sadako actually has different powers than the film. In the actual book, she's not as powerful as she is in the film. She has a much more limited set of abilities, whereas in the film, she's almost unstoppable, where she can basically heal herself and teleport and go all over the place. And even in the American version of this, that's even more amplified with all of the Hollywood stuff. I feel like Dead by Daylight are really going to draw on this for Dead by Daylight, and they can easily write it in the lore that the entity fuels her and makes her even stronger to make those powers really, really dominant. Alrighty, so let's draw on the actual powers that this killer could potentially possess. There is a lot of different things that are significant to the movie, and I think that DBD can do a great job at capitalizing on this. First of all, the most obvious is the tape. You play the tape, you see the image that goes around, or the video I should say, a lot of different b-rolls of a lot of different things. And there's also a distinction where in the novel it actually has text that's basically saying you're gonna die, and in order to stop this, and then it just says dot 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 at the end. Whereas in the film itself, it doesn't necessarily do this. It's just a bunch of different b-roll that you see, and even changed more so in the American version. The final scenes being Sadako coming out of the well. Now, once you've actually seen this, you'll get a call, and it basically says that you have 7 days to live, and you basically have to solve the curse, come down, and figure out what's going on. I think Dead by Daylight can reflect this in the sense that either all characters spawn in with 7 minutes to die on the clock, or one character basically has 7 minutes. Spoilers ahead, but as we know, if you get someone to watch a copy of this film, what ends up happening is that they end up dying. So maybe this can be a little bit of a trial that you put your own survivor friends against each other. Everyone might have their own individual clock, and if you don't copy the film and show it to somebody else or push it in somewhere else, your timer runs down. And maybe you have to copy the film, push it in, and then your timer stops. It will chop down from the 7 minutes, and if over time you're being chased too long or whatever the case may be, you could end up being moried or killed. This would be similar to Pyramid Head's insta-kill when you're on the floor on your last hook and he can instantly kill you. Now, I don't necessarily know if this is going to be individual for everyone and you have to pass it on and it continues to go around in a circle like a hot potato with all of your survivor friends, or if everybody could be spawned in with a 7-minute timer and you need to make a copy in order to stop it, and maybe the next time you take a hit, the timer continues to repeat, or whatever the case may be. But an interesting concept nonetheless. I think that it makes a lot of sense to have the TVs around, that you need to push the tapes in, and there's a lot of draws for the add-ons that they could do as well. Maybe when a survivor is touching one of these TVs, the killer gets killer's instinct and they know that they're there. That draws on a little bit to the secondary power, where if the TVs are around the map, the killer will be able to teleport through them. This will be very similar to the Demogorgon, where the Demogorgon can use their portals in order to traverse the map and go somewhere else, and instead of having to place them down, you might have 4 or 5 TVs scattered around the map and they can instantly go to that one. So it's kind of like the Jigsaw box, except you can teleport straight to it. It makes a lot of sense for keeping the pressure and making the killer pretty viable in that sense. Now, of course, there is the theory about the well. As we know, the killer comes out of the wells, and maybe this is scattered around the maps as well. It could be a toss-up between the two, but I think to avoid confusion, they might just keep the TV, as it's a little bit more significant, and maybe B-roll footage could always run off the tape, and survivors have to run up to it in time before their 7-minute timer runs out. Maybe it's not a 7-minute timer, maybe it's 77 seconds, something crazy like that. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe it also gives you the exposed status effect if your 70-second timer ends, or whatever the case may be, but I definitely think that's going to be a play on it, with the televisions also being a way of the killer traversing the maps. Now, what about the actual ability? Because that would be a little bit more passive, where the 7 minutes is passive. You have to get rid of this, kind of like Freddy's Dream State. I'm comparing it to a lot of things to give you guys a great image of it, and then if you can use it to teleport as another secondary ability. But what about your primary ability? What exactly are you going to do? Because there still needs to be something that significantly helps you. Well, if you are familiar with the novel or the film, you know that if the 7 days is up, you end up dying in a very horrific way. But before you get to that point, you see a lot of hallucinations. You take pictures of yourselves and they're all blurry. You even have weird visions and weird dreams. And essentially, I think that is exactly what's going to happen. Periodically, if you stare at the killer for extensive amount of times, you'll slowly be crept into this madness type of state, similar to the Doctor, except it might be called cursed. And it could even be your sanity, whatever they decide to go on. But it would be really awesome if we have a new status effect. And as you periodically go up, you start hallucinating a little bit more things. Maybe you see your survivor friends running around the map when they're not actually there. Maybe you see the killer, similar to Doctor hallucinations, teleport behind you and start chasing you instead of just stagnantly standing still. That would be pretty awesome and pretty damn terrifying. And this will overall get more intense every single time you're staring at the killer, up until the point where you continue to get more and more debuffs if you stare at them. For example, if you stare at the killer for too long, maybe you have a debuff and you become hemorrhaged, or you can't work on generators as fast. It definitely would be an interesting thing to see, and the only way to cure yourself or to make yourself better is to reset the tape in order to give yourself some more time. Or maybe they add in a new action, such as waking up from Freddy, where you have to pull the clock. They might add something like that. I think it does make a lot of sense if you have to push a VHS step and reset the whole sequence or replay the tape in order for that to happen. And one more thing I want to draw on that really adds to this cursed or fair meter that I have is that if you take a look at some of the quotes that the developers have been saying, you can see that they're hinting towards your heartbeat a lot. I've noticed this quite a few times in what they've been saying. If you take a look at the first quote, it says, "A real heart-pounding experience. Tell a friend or else." So that is pretty interesting. That quote alone from Dave really kind of draws into what we're saying here. A heart-pounding experience. So as the timer goes down for your power, you're going pretty much nuts. You're cursed, or you're actually fearful, whatever it is, and your heart starts beating louder and louder every time the timer goes down. And if you don't tell a friend, you end up dying. If you don't make a copy of this and show them the tape, you end up dying. And the quote right before this from the creator says, "Fans should beware of their heart." So again, we're having this cursed or fair meter that's going up. And if you listen to the final seconds of the teaser that we're given, when the killer comes out of the well, you can actually hear your heartbeat getting very loud. Take a listen. So all in all, this cursed or fair meter makes a lot of sense, and that could primarily be your power. The more you stare at this killer, the more insane you become, and this can have debuffs over time. And if you don't stop this, or you don't cure yourself over time, it'll become worse and worse, and you might end up dying or being moried. And of course, for the Mori, what can we expect? We can expect that very fearful, broken, melted face that we typically see, where the eyes are just non-existent, the face is half melted, and it's just really scary. They also could do something where you get dragged in a well or something along the lines of that, but it would be quite awesome. Think about it as Slender Man, essentially, where all the static comes and then you basically go insane and you die, except now your face will be completely melted because that is heavily lore rated as well. Or who knows, they might just spawn a TV and you might crawl out and just eat their face or something. We'll have to see. So all in all, you would have a progressive timer that counts down from 7, where you need to make a copy of a film and show it to your survivor friends, or you have to continuously do this to stop your timer, and the next time you get hit, it continues. Then, if you stare at the killer for too long, you will then become a little bit more insane every single time, so it forces you not to look at the killer, which could actually help you in chases and lead to potential mind games. And finally, the killer will be able to teleport through the wells or the TVs that are on the map. That is my speculation for the power. It's really correlated with the lore, but that essentially is my theory on what the power could be for the brand new killer that is going to be coming into Dead by Daylight. It is a very, very far way to go, and we're probably going to reiterate on this point and even take a look at some awesome fan-made creations that people have come up with their own powers and perks. And we're going to talk about the map and things like that in future videos, but I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with me. I personally think that this makes a lot of sense, and we're going to see this killer very much as the Hollywood style of killer, where you'll see the water puddles coming along and they have the very pale, almost bluish skin, their hair just straight in your face, and them just kind of teleporting and walking similar to the spirit, and they're just phasing and they're slowly walking, leaving around water trails. It would be pretty awesome. And of course, the killer radius could just be some static noise, or maybe the little girl's hum, whatever the case may be. Oh, I could talk about it for days. I'm just so excited about it. But I'm going to end it right here so I don't continue to ramble about. My friends, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you guys do enjoy. As always, if you did, make sure you leave a like down below, subscribe for some more Dead by Daylight content, and share your thoughts on what you think about this video. But that's going to do it for me. I'm the King. That's in my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.